Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be tier ranking all of the books I read in 2025. And I know we're well into 2026 by the point I'm posting this, but I wanted to give all these books just their moment to shine and just kind of talk about them one more time until I pick up new books in 2026. So let's get started. Okay, so for the 5 tiers I made for this tier list, they're very Gen Z brain rot coded, just so you know. For my 5-star reads, or 4 to 5 star, but depending on how amazing the experience was reading this book or how good the book was, I have This Is Cinema. Second, it's mostly like 4-star, almost 5-star. Books that I really liked are I Apologize, I Wasn't Familiar with Your Game. 3-star books, or just overall books that I liked but were kind of mid or like were kind of forgettable, are You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. And then we have the 2-star books, which are just books that I wouldn't recommend to anyone. I finished, but I did not enjoy reading. Those are We Listen and We Judge. And then Hours I Will Never Get Back is just books that I hated and I wasted my time. Or not even books that were 1-star reads. Like, they can be like pretty good books, but books that I would not recommend to anyone else to waste their time reading, and I overall did not enjoy the experience of reading it. Okay, so the first book I read in 2025 was Talking at Night by Claire Daverly, and I'm gonna have to put this in We Listen and We Judge. Actually, wait, I'm already conflicted because I want to put this in You Were Good, I Was Waiting for You to Be Great, but I overall was like disappointed with this book, and I remember thinking it was kind of a ripoff of Normal People but make it worse. So I'm probably gonna have to put this in We Listen and We Judge. Sorry. Off to a great start. Also, a lot of the books I read in the beginning of the year were for school. I was taking a lot of psychology classes that semester, so a lot of them are like nonfiction, more psychology-based books that I probably would not have read on my own, but I did read them, so they go towards my reading count. We have Oliver Sacks' The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. Honestly, if you want a psychology book that's very interesting, I would recommend this book because it's all about this doctor's stories of patients he had that had like neurological malfunctions that are really like interesting to learn about, and it was told in a very engaging way. So I would put this in, honestly, I Apologize, I Wasn't Familiar with Your Game, because I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And next we have The Alchemist, which is a very popular book. A lot of people rave about it, which kind of makes me hesitant to put this where I want to put it, but I'm gonna put it in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. Is that crazy? Because I feel like people rave about that book, but in my opinion it wasn't all that. I was assigned to read this book for school, and I remember us discussing it in class, and I remember I found it interesting, but I was just like, it's not worth the hype. And I also read this for another psychology class, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This was a reread for me, actually. I read this book before, and I probably would have given it 5 stars at the time, but it did not hold up when I reread it. So maybe I'll put it in I Apologize, I Wasn't Familiar with Your Game, because I still really loved this book, but the second time I read it, I was just kind of realizing things that were like unrealistic. I mean, it's magical realism, so obviously it's going to be unrealistic. I felt like the way that characters were affected by events in her life were unrealistic at parts. That being said, it was still a really good book with a really interesting premise, and I really like it. So I wasn't familiar with Your Game, but I was because I had already read it before, if that makes sense. I don't even remember reading this, I'm gonna be honest. Phantoms in the Brain by Dr. Ramachandran. I don't remember a single thing about this book, so maybe I'll put it in Hours I Will Never Get Back, which I feel like that's really mean because someone put their life's work into every book, and that's why I feel bad like giving books bad reviews, but it just was not a book I would have picked up on my own. It was assigned for school, and I feel like it just did not engage me if I don't remember anything about it, so I'm very sorry. This book, I don't even really know if it's an official book. It's called The Blair Witch Project, and it's all about like the marketing campaign behind the Blair Witch Project. And this was a source I had for this presentation I was doing about the movie The Blair Witch Project. And I had to have a book, so I like found some PDF book online. I don't know if it was officially published, but it was not good. The movie, obviously, very good, but there didn't need to be a book written about the making of the movie. So maybe we listen and we judge? I don't know. Next is another book I had to read for psychology, Travelers in Unimaginable Lands. And I seem to remember this book being a little bit more interesting, but at the same time, do I remember a thing about it? No. So maybe you were good. I'm waiting for you to be great. All right, I think we're finally past my books I read for psychology class, so don't worry, there won't be any more. I remember Sunrise on the Reaping. I read it as soon as it came out in 2025. Honestly, I'm going to put this in... This is cinema, because that was the first book I picked up after a long time of not reading, and I remember I was just having such a great time reading it, and it was really just like a break from a really busy schedule of school I had at the time, so brownie points for that. Next we have Kristen Hanna, The Four Winds, and I remember reading this as soon as summer break started, and I had really high expectations for it because The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna is one of my favorite books, but I did not like it. It was so depressing, and it's about the Great Depression, but it was depressing and it was boring, I felt like, so we listen and we judge, which feels criminal because I love Kristen Hanna and I actually love her style of writing. I just did not like that book. Yeah, I think that's a fitting tier ranking for that, honestly. Okay, Emily Henry, Funny Story, I read for the first time in 2025, and I just remember really not jiving with it. I love Emily Henry's books for the most part, but this is probably my least favorite one of her books, which surprises me because I feel like a lot of people really like it. But I'm gonna have to put this in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great, because I definitely went through it really fast, but it kind of just felt like a nothing burger. Like, it felt like I didn't really get anything out of it except for like a semi-entertaining story, and I didn't really like the couple in the book either, which is the main component. Okay, Light Lark by Alex Astor. I think I remember reading this, and I usually don't really read fantasy books, but I liked how it was YA, so I was giving it a chance, and I don't think I really liked it, so I will put it in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great, because I didn't really have a negative perception about it, but it wasn't the best book I've ever read. And then I also read the sequel to that, which is Nightbane by Alex Astor. And I remember at the end of that just not even wanting to continue the series, so I felt like I really didn't like that book. So I'm going to put We Listen and We Judge. Another Emily Henry, Great Big Beautiful Life. This is probably my favorite book of Emily Henry's, except for Beach Read, so I'm going to put I Was Unfamiliar with Your Game. Because I had a really good time reading this. Sorry that keeps on popping up on the side, but I had a really good time reading this over the summer, especially like going on walks and listening to the audiobook, and the audiobook is super good. I just have fond memories of reading this book, but it wasn't like the best book of 2025, like a perfect book. All right, the next is Emma by Jane Austen. This book literally took me 2 months to finish. I really was not on my reading grind in the middle of the summer, and when I switched to the audiobook, I started really liking this book. And I love classics that kind of remind you that people have stayed the same for hundreds of years. Like, I felt like I could relate so much to the drama that was happening in this book, and it was just cool to read about it happening in a different time period. So I really liked this book. I'm gonna put I Was Unfamiliar with Your Game as well, because I definitely did not expect to like that book as much as I did, especially considering it's a classic. Next is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is gonna have to go in This Is Cinema, because This is probably one of my favorite books I read in 2025, and I thought it was just such a cute story, and I loved the setting in New York. Like, there was some themes of grief in the book, but overall it was just very like a nostalgic book to me for some reason, and I just have a good feeling thinking about it, so it's gonna have to go in This Is Cinema. And then I read A First Time for Everything. I'm not really sure who this is by. Who is it by? K.L. Walther. This is more of like a YA middle grade book. It was definitely really easy to get through. I definitely enjoyed it, but I'm gonna have to put this in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great, because I don't see myself like picking up that book again or recommending it to someone else. All right, the next book is this random book I saw on Spotify Premium. I had a free audiobook of it, and I remember I listened to the whole thing on like a 3-hour drive back from my brother's house when I was driving myself. And I remember seeing the name, which was Waiting Isn't a Waste. And I was just in a period of life where that really stuck out to me. And I remember I listened to this audiobook, and it was just a very comforting listen in a stage of life where I really needed to hear the things that were in the book. So I'm gonna have to put this in I Was Unfamiliar with Your Game. I don't know if I would recommend this to other people, but it definitely like really resonated with me in the stage of life that I was in. The next, The Life Impossible by Matt Haig, is probably one of my biggest disappointments of 2025, so I'm gonna have to put this in Hours I Will Never Get Back. I'm really sorry because as I said before, really enjoyed The Midnight Library, but this book was such a flop compared to The Midnight Library, and the whole thing just felt like I was waiting for it to be done the entire time I was reading it. And I remember I switched to audiobook at one point just so I could like have it on in the background and be done with the book. So sorry, was not my fave, obviously. A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. This is probably one of the best books of all time, and I'm gonna have to put this in This Is Cinema. If you have not read this book, it's super good, and I think everybody needs to hear what's in this book. It's nonfiction, and it's about a man's experience in the concentration camps in World War II, and kind of like the psychological aspects of how he survived that, and then also like his spirituality. 5 stars. The next is Love Interest by Claire Gilmore, and I'm gonna have to go bar for bar This Is Cinema, because that book is probably one of my favorite rom-coms, and I just loved the characters. I loved the New York setting once again. I think I just love a New York setting, and it was just such a cute book. So underrated. The next book is Sweet Magic by Donna Kaufman, and I will have to put this in Hours I Will Never Get Back, because this book was so boring, and I remember I read it for the first reading vlog I ever posted, I think, and that in itself kind of gives me some nostalgia for it, because I remember when I was filming the video, and I remember that was like the first reading vlog I posted, but it was just super boring, and I had kind of picked it up because I saw it at the library and it looked like a cute fall read, but I would not recommend, honestly. And the next is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston again, but I'm gonna have to put this one in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great, because even though I think I gave this 4 stars when I had first read it, like thinking back to it, it was just kind of mid, and like the 2 characters who were together in it like kind of didn't have any chemistry, and it kind of just felt like fan fiction was written about some random book series, which if you know the premise of the book, that would make more sense. Yeah, not my favorite, but it wasn't bad by any means, just kind of boring. And the next is Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I'm gonna have to put this in I Apologize, I Wasn't Familiar with Your Game. I really enjoyed this book, especially when I read it during the fall. It was the perfect like soft thriller book, like not too scary and disturbing, but definitely like kept you on the edge of your seat, and yeah, really enjoyed it. Next is Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber, and I'm gonna have to put this one in This Is Cinema, because this book, I have very fond memories of reading it when I was in Spain, and it was very like cutesy magic, not like super dark fantasy kind of thing. So it was definitely like a fantasy book I really enjoyed, and I loved it, and I can't wait for the series to continue. All right, the next book series I read was the Twilight series, and I think I like talked about this in a couple of my vlogs maybe, but I first read obviously Twilight and I hated it. It was probably like 2-3 stars for me, so I'm gonna have to put this in We Listen and We Judge. Sorry. I don't think I was just like in my Twilight era when I read that, and then when I kept reading the rest of the series I could kind of like see the vision. So New Moon, I think I would put in I Apologize, I Wasn't Familiar with Your Game, which definitely describes how I felt about it, because I hated the first Twilight book, and then the second Twilight book I was like, okay, I can see what she was going for with this. I think the writing really improved from the first book to the second book. Okay, the third Twilight book, Eclipse, I'll have to put this in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great, because I think I did not like this one as much as the second book when I'm thinking back on it. And then I kind of had to take a break from the Twilight series, and I read The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis, which is a prequel to the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe Narnia book. And I finished that in like one day. I think I really liked that book, so I'm going to put I Apologize, I Wasn't Familiar with Your Game once again, because I had no prior knowledge of that, because they did not make a movie out of that book, and I really liked it. And now I'm actually reading the rest of the Narnia series as we speak. Okay, the fourth Twilight book, Breaking Dawn, I will have to put in... I'm really conflicted about this, actually, because I think it was like the most exciting book out of the Twilight series, but when I'm thinking back on it, I'm like, it was kind of fantastical. Like, the things that were happening did not like really make sense for the series. Man, I don't know whether to put it in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great, or I Apologize, I Wasn't Familiar with Your Game. I think You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great, because it really wasn't all that, now that I think back on it. And I think I was really excited to be done with the Twilight series by the time I actually was done with it. Okay, and then the rest of the books were just like holiday books. I think I read them all for my 24-hour reading challenge. The first one I read was In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I would have to put this in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. It was just kind of mid. Like, it was very cute holiday, but I think that they definitely could have done better with it. And then Holiday Romance was the one I read after that. I'm gonna have to put in This Is Cinema. Which seems kind of dumb for like a holiday book, like holiday rom-com, but I really enjoyed it when I first read it, and definitely like really put me in the holiday spirit. So I would definitely recommend next Christmas season to read that book. And then lastly, the last book I read was One Day in December by Josie Silver. Ending on a high note. Hours I Will Never Get Back. I'm so sorry, but this book was like the soapiest, like most dramatic book, and for what? It was literally supposed to be, or I thought it was going to be like a cute December romance, but it followed the characters over 10 years, and there was just like so many like mistakes and drama that went down during those 10 years that I really just like felt like I could not root for the characters after all of that, and I kind of just was excited to be done with it, if I'm being honest. So that is all of my 2025 books I just tier ranked. That was honestly so much fun, and it really gives me an appreciation of all like the journey of reading I went on this year, because obviously at the beginning of the year I was only reading like books for school, and then over the summer I kind of like started reading more books for fun, and then I started making videos about it and I read way more books. So I think I got up to like 32, 33 books. My reading goal for 2025 was 15 books, and so I beat that out of the water, honestly, with 33 books. But next year I was thinking about not setting a reading goal, because I kind of just want to go back to like reading for fun and not feeling like crazy stressed about like all the books I need to get to. I definitely want to read a lot and then hopefully get up to 40 books, but if I don't, it's like not that big of a deal. I just want to have fun with reading and make videos about it sometimes and just enjoy it. So I hope you enjoyed this tier ranking of my 2025 reads, and I'm super excited to make more book content in the new year and more reading vlogs, book recommendations, that kind of thing. So make sure to subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you very soon with some new videos. Bye!